Coming up on Tech News Today, Nest thermostats get more attractive, Ultrabooks prospects plummet, but don't worry, we've got a plan to get you back in the theater. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, October 2nd, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/TNT. And by the new Squarespace. Squarespace introduces a new content management system, making it faster and easier to create a high-quality website or blog online portfolio. Plus more than 50 new features, including mobile responsive designs. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT10. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your iPhone, iPad, MacBook, or Android smartphone. Find out what your gadget is worth and get cash to upgrade to the latest iPhone at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
Oh, sorry. I was waiting for Ayaz, but he's not here. I'm Jason Howell.
And as you can see, Donald Bell, if you're watching the video with us today. How's it going, Donald?
I'm doing great.
He'll be joining us for the discussion in just a minute. But first, let's tell you about the top 10 stories of the day in the news fuse. I'm making a promise to you, the people of the Tech News Today audience. I hereby decide to do all future patent stories in old-timey newsreel voice.
Oh, good.
Samsung's not dead yet in the battle for patent supremacy. Old Soul's superhero asked Judge Paul Grewal to add the iPhone 5 in its suit, accusing Apple of network naughtiness. Meanwhile, the Galaxy Tab 10.1 gets a new lease on life. Judge Lucy Coe showed it really is a judge's prerogative to change her mind and lifted the ban on selling the Tab. How do you like them apples, Tim?
Wow.
I really should have put you in black and white.
That was better than I thought it would be.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell you
I
didn't have much
thought this isn't going to end well, and it actually made a patent war a lot more fun.
Good.
HTC One X Plus, that's the updated version of the phone announced at Mobile World Congress earlier this year, lives 4.7-inch, 1.7 gigahertz quad-core Tegra 3, expanded to 64 gigabytes of storage. Android 4.1, of course, that's Jelly Bean, with Sense 4 Plus. You can now tap to pair with Beats branded speakers, which allows users to easily connect and disconnect from their audio peripherals. There's an 8-megapixel rear cam with an f2 lens, plus a self-portrait mode for front-facing shots, and sightseeing for quick launching of the camera app, among others.
You know what it takes to get Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg to put on a tie?
He has to get married?
No, Russia.
Oh.
He just needs to be in Russia, apparently. Zuck met with Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev and was wearing a coat and tie. Prime Minister reportedly is encouraging Facebook to open a research center in Moscow. He also appeared on late-night television there, which he's never done in the U.S. It's like a whole new world for him.
Maybe he's just feeling threatened enough, intimidated. Put on a tie and go on any show that they want me to. Google stock market value is number one, at least as compared to Microsoft. As of Monday, Google topped a 10-year quest for dominance between leaders of the PC and internet eras of computing. Those are the two big guys. Google is set to top Facebook this year to also become the biggest online display advertising company, with global revenues likely to hit $6 billion, according to analysts. It's also ahead in mobile display advertising and accounts for more than half that market.
Deutsche Telekom announced it is in talks to acquire Metro PCS in order to give its T-Mobile USA division a boost. DT says the talks are at a stage where significant issues have not yet been finalized, contracts have not yet been signed, and the conclusion of a transaction is still not certain, but at least they commented on it. Deutsche Telekom would be the majority shareholder in a combination of T-Mobile USA and Metro PCS. Metro PCS has 9.3 million prepaid customers.
Stockholm police raided web host PR Keto AB, PR for short, and took 4 of its servers, according to company's owner, Mikhail Viborg. It's not yet clear which servers were taken. The Pirate Bay, among other BitTorrent search sites, were down, but Viborg says that was due to an unrelated technical issue. The company is a staunch free speech advocate and hosted or has hosted servers for the likes of WikiLeaks to NAMBLA. Viborg says he doesn't often know who's paying him for servers He doesn't want to know.
He's like, just take their cash. At SeaTac, Japan's NTT Docomo is showing off its Hanashite Honyaku service for Android devices, which can translate between 11 spoken languages, including Japanese, English, French, German, and Korean. The system not only shows on-screen translation, but reads it out in your chosen language. It's a freaking universal translator. The service works in person or over the phone and is set to launch in Japan November 1st.
Nest Labs has unveiled the second-gen Nest Home thermostat. The new gadget is 20% thinner than the original and has a single-piece stainless steel ring designed to reflect the colors of whatever room it's in. So if your walls are pink, so's the Nest, which means that Nest sort of automatically matches your decor. The company says it's now compatible with 95% of 24-volt low-voltage heating and cooling systems, up from 75%.
The Wiki Weapon project aims to make a fully 3D printed pistol that would fire. Probably the first one would only be able to fire one shot before it melted the barrel. However, the project received a setback when desktop manufacturing company Stratasys seized their rented printer from project leader Cody Wilson, claiming he intended to use the printer for illegal purposes. In the United States, it's not against the law to manufacture your own firearm as long as you don't sell or trade it. However, some weapons are subject to ATF review, and that review requirement may have pushed Stratasys legal counsel to pull the trigger on the return.
Gmail just rolled out a pretty cool ability to search inside of Gmail attachments. You've already been able to search by file name, but now Google will index the text within attached PDFs, documents, and other files. If you want to try it out, search for has:attachment, followed by the word or phrase you're trying to find within that said attachment.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Audible.com, the leading provider of audiobooks with over 100,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature, including fiction, nonfiction, and periodicals. And for listeners of Tech News Today, we're giving you a free audiobook. If you haven't tried audiobooks now, what are you doing? I'd get so much more done. I vacuum. I listen to it on my drive. I go running. I go walking. And lately I've been listening to The Wind Through the Keyhole, a Dark Tower novel by Stephen King, actually read by Stephen King, which is pretty good. But you get a good narrator, you get a good book.
I like his voice.
You like Stephen King's voice?
Yeah, I do.
That's not bad. Brian Brushman was like, I don't know if I want to listen to him read it, but I mean, he's no Roy Dotrice. He's good.
Yeah, I like it.
He pronounces some things weird, though, which I'm like, well, I guess this is how they're pronounced since he wrote the book. But you got to check it out. Go to audible.com. You can try downloading The Wind Through the Keyhole or any book. There's the Lawrence Lessig's new book on government corruption is in there. Jason, you said you were listening to Late Night.
Yeah, The War for Late Night by Bill Carter. That's really long, but all about the Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien kind of thing that happened a few years ago. It's very interesting, but very detailed. If
you've lapsed in your subscription or you've never tried Audible, do it right now. Go to audiblepodcast.com/TNT and download a free audiobook of your choice. Once again, that's audiblepodcast.com/TNT. We thank Audible for their support of Tech News Today. All right, Donald Bell, let's bring you in on the conversation. Senior editor at CNET. Good to have you on the show, man.
Good to be here, finally. Yeah.
Let's talk about nesting. You're at home.
Sure.
Well,
Makes me think of spooning or something like that. It sounds a little dirty when you say it, Tom.
Well, I mean, the whole Nest thermostat is designed to help you nest more intelligently in your own home. I guess you could think of it that way.
Sure.
This, of course, is the thermostat/smart app system, so that you can not only have thermostat that's attached to your wall, but it has a whole system where you can control your thermostat remotely. You can set timers. It gets smarter based on your usage. The Nest is about a year old, so some of you, in fact, in the chat room, when we mentioned Nest in the news view, said, "Oh, we have a Nest. There's already a new Nest." Yeah, so a year later, version 2.0, I guess you could say, has come out. What it is 20% thinner than the original, so I guess there's that much less of it sticking out of the wall.
So they are like the iPhone of thermostats. Like, we're now thinner.
Right.
You're gonna love it.
Well, and it's now a chameleon because it's designed to just absorb whatever color is surrounding it.
Was it like it's reflective or something?
Yeah, exactly. It's a metallic thing, but it's basically meant to be as unintrusive as possible. Even if you like the way that it's cool, it's supposed to sort of just not show up that much more. It also has its new software, the Nest version 3.0, which can also be loaded on other models. So if you've got a first-gen Nest and you're going, oh man, I mean, at least The software part of it will be available to you. Has a system match feature that works with different types of home systems to make better predictions. So what Nest says is we used to have about 75% compatibility with residential heating and cooling systems. We have now increased that to 95%. So basically, you'd be hard-pressed to not be able to be compatible.
Or you're going to be really depressed when you find out
that
I'm one
you're
of the
that
5%.
Exactly. Expanded compatibility is made possible by, as the company explains, an additional Y2 connection, and then another connection. The Y2 adds second stage cooling, and then the Nest. Oh gosh, my phone is going crazy and opening up all these windows on my computer while we're live here.
It's not that phone.
No. The Nest Star wildcard connection works with items like emergency heat for heat pumps, humidifiers, third stage heating, dehumidifiers, depending on where you live. You might want one or the other. And of course, iOS and Android apps have been updated as well. They already had those. That helps you, again, control temperature remotely, schedule heat or cooling, etc. The new Nest is $249, and the original has gotten a price reduction, but only by about $20. The original is $229, so it seems like
if you want the fat, ugly one, you only get save $20.
You only save $20, and yeah, it's not thinner and it's not a chameleon. Not that much of a price reduction actually, but I don't know, if for some reason you don't think that you need a smaller, thinner Nest, you've got options there.
It's not that hard to install apparently either. And, you know, a lot of people are like, I don't know if I want to mess with the thermostat, but it's a couple of wires.
Yeah, I mean, Lindsay Turrentine at CNET did this review, and she said it took her like 5 minutes.
Yeah. And renters, I saw some renters like, oh, I'm not allowed to do that. I think you have the right to do it as long as you put the old thermostat back when you leave.
It's just rewiring. Yeah. I would imagine that's...
It's like changing a light fixture or
exactly.
You know, something like that.
Yeah,
might be
I don't know. I remember hearing at the beginning, at least from people who had some of the first Nest units, maybe even before they were available to the public, saying, really depends on what your system already is.
Good to know, yeah.
So again, this is Nest saying we are now compatible with more of the systems that are probably already in your home than ever before. So that's definitely good news.
Yeah.
And I love this. I mean, you want to... You don't want to pay to heat a house that you're not going to be in if you're going to be on vacation. I mean, the whole thing just makes a lot of sense. And anybody who's interested in controlling anything remotely via an app is going to be really comfortable with this already. Donald, do you have a Nest?
I don't have a Nest, but I do love that it gives geeks a whole new spectrum of things to geek out about. You know, about your home performance, your heating performance, you know, all the different little things that will help you save money, but also kind of a better idea of what's going on in your house.
Yeah, I'm tempted now, and I think this is good. You know, it's good for Nest to do product revs like this, even if they're not particularly amazing, because it just gets you thinking about it again. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I have been wanting to try this out, and I'm a renter, so I am too. I would like to still put it in anyway.
What's attractive too is and my landlord, I haven't asked him, but it's like, even if he said something like, yeah, I mean, you can do this, but when you move out, I want it to be like this never happened. That means I still get to take it with me, too.
Yeah,
so it's not like I'm paying $250 for something that's not actually mine.
Totally.
It would stay mine.
Let's talk about dropping Ultrabook sales. IHS Supply reports that only 10.3 million Ultrabooks will ship this year. They had originally expected 22 million Ultrabooks to ship this year, and they're expecting sales of 44 million in 2013. That's down from a forecast of 61 million. So why have they changed their mind? They say that Ultrabooks suffer from nebulous marketing and an unappealing price. And they go on to explain that Intel standards are too strict. They keep taking things that should, by all accounts, be Ultrabooks and saying, nope, not an Ultrabook. That's now an Ultra Thin, which is confusing for customers. They don't really know what an Ultrabook is. There's hope that the Windows 8 launch would help Ultrabooks. Haswell processors should be coming mid-2013. Those would help Ultrabooks and boost sales. Boy Genius Report was wondering if tablet keyboard combos like the NVX2, sometimes called Ultrapads, will help boost sales. And John Biggs at TechCrunch points out that Intel has a history of pushing what it wants, not what customers want, but driving a platform. So they did this with tablets. They did this with Wi-Fi. The Centrino chipset. It doesn't always work immediately for Intel, but they'll end up benefiting later. So that may be part of their strategy. Donald, what do you think of Ultrabooks? You covered laptops for quite a long time, right?
I've dabbled in laptops for a while. Sure, I've done a few top fives now that touch on laptops. I think that it is interesting that Ultrabooks are kind of oblivious to the pricing of laptops that people are actually buying. They seem too expensive. I think the thinness of the design is only goes so far for appeal, and I think we've also seen in the past few years now the iPadification of the computer market, where people are driven to things like the iPad because it's a good enough solution, and it's inexpensive. And Ultrabooks seem the opposite. They're more than you need, and they're expensive. So it's a tough sell.
I think it's the price more than anything, because more than I need is great. I want to have growing room for unexpected behaviors that I may start to exhibit at some point. I want to have more RAM, more space, because I always grow into it. But at $1,000 plus, and I'm throwing the MacBook Air in here. I know IHS iSupply wasn't, but it's the same thing. These things are just really expensive.
I make this mistake all the time, especially because Ayaz loves to take these Ultrabook stories, and I know that he would have had even here today. But I'll always say, yeah, it's like it's a fancier netbook, and he'll go, well, no, it's an Ultrabook because it's a specific standard. It's like, I know that, but as a consumer, I know that I'm not the only person who's saying that.
Yeah.
It's a netbook.
It's a bigger netbook that's thinner.
Yeah, and I mean, it's cooler in many ways, but unless I'm somebody who's really just interested in the minutia of specifications, and some people are, but I don't think the kind of numbers that we're talking about here represents those people. It represents the overall buying market of consumers who go, netbook that's like $1,200? I don't know. What about this other one?
I do think people want a lightweight keyboard attached to a screen form factor. I mean, that's why I bought this. This is a Linux laptop. It runs Ubuntu from Zareason, because I wanted to have something lighter to carry around when I just need to do browsing and chat room and a little internet connectivity. It's got a camera built in, so yeah, I still got my MacBook Pro for when I want to do editing or I want to do something that's a little more intensive.
This is your true mobile.
But this does a whole lot more than a tablet could do. It's just the prices need to come down, I think. Don't you think, Donald?
I do, but I feel like when you throw in the word ultra in there, you suggest that it's going to be expensive too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. There's something ultra. It seems even if they did a better job marketing it, you would come away thinking that an Ultrabook is something that's going to be ultra expensive. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I've always thought that the Ultrabook name was just kind of marketing buzz and it was meaningless. A tablet makes sense, right? We call something a tablet. We call something a laptop or even a notebook. That sort of makes sense. But the Ultrabook, even the netbook name, I always found those to just be silly. At least the netbook name did catch on, though. People understood what it was.
It became synonymous with inexpensive, though.
Yes.
The Ultrabook is not making that same case.
So it needs to be the mini book or the cheapy book.
Light book.
Or something like that. Yeah, all right. So it just needs rebranding. No, I think it's a good point that John Biggs made, though, is that Intel is ahead of the game here. I think people do want this form factor. It's just not ready yet. And so once again, they're kind of out in front trying to make people want something that they can't provide exactly the way they want. Another thing that an industry wants, the movie industry wants people to get back into the theaters, especially the theater owners.
Yeah, this is actually something I am really excited about because I happen to go to the movie theater all the time, but I know that you might not because it's, a hassle and you have kids and you got to get a babysitter, you got to bring the kids and the popcorn's $20 and it's expensive. Yeah. So here's the deal. It's called Movie Pass, and it's basically a subscription model for theater goers. So you would pay for a Movie Pass subscription, which would be anywhere from $20 to $40 a month. It's not exactly set yet, or it might depend on what theater you're going to or what city you live in. Then you get a special credit card. If a movie theater accepts credit cards, then they should accept this card, and you have access to unlimited films at this theater, as long as you're paying your subscription. Wouldn't include more expensive movies like 3D, probably would also apply to the big round theater.
IMAX
theater, because those tickets are going to be more expensive anyway, and they're in high demand. What did I say?
I know exactly what you meant, though.
The big theater that does
the round thing?
The round one where it sucks to be on this side.
Yeah.
So you go to the movie. You open your Movie Pass app. So you've got an app running on your smartphone or something. You check in. You have to be within 100 yards of the theater to check in to prove that you're really there and you're really going to go to the movie. And then you go up to the kiosk, or probably to an attendant. You show them your Movie Pass card, and that's where you get your ticket. Okay, so I love this idea. I really, really do. I don't think it's going to help any family who says, no, the problem is just getting to the theater.
Right. Or people talking during the movie.
Yeah. Or I've got to get there so early in order to get the seat that I want because I like to be in the back, in the middle, that sort of thing. So if you're not really a fan of going to the movies, then this is the sort of subscription that you'll probably end up paying a lot more than you get out of it.
That's what they're hoping.
Right.
That's how they make money.
That's exactly what they're hoping. They're hoping that people like me, I don't know, just there are more of you than there are of me. So, I would absolutely get $40 a month, even at the high end of what's being quoted for a subscription here for MoviePass. I would easily save $40 a month just because of what I end up paying, because I always get popcorn.
Well, but I guess the theaters get something out of it because MoviePass is talking about sharing data that they wouldn't otherwise get.
Yeah, that too. I guess one of the things that variety of companies that work with selling movie tickets and figuring out how to get people into theaters, what they don't know is really any of our demographics. Besides the fact that if I buy an R-rated movie, I'm probably over 17, there's not really much more to know about me. MoviePass could collect information, and they say, listen, we're not going to share specific user data about you, but we do think that if we let a theater know that, someone like you is going to this kind of movie more often, or someone like me is really staying away from these other kinds of movies, then they can work within their own promotions department and try to figure out how to sell seats more often. I do wonder how this would work in theaters, and I know that these are the minority, but there's a theater that I go to in San Francisco where there's assigned seating. So you pay a premium to get, seat 5D, and you walk in during the previews, and nobody's going to be sitting in that seat because you paid for it. I don't know how that would work with a model like this. Maybe it's not possible, but I love this. I like the option to have this.
Jason pointed out, we talked about this company on Frame Rate a year ago or so.
Yeah, it was about a year ago.
When they were trying to get this going, and they couldn't get any partners, so they're back. They finally got it rolling.
Yeah, they used to have like a smartphone voucher business.
Yeah.
And then they were doing a print-at-home voucher system, and neither of those seem to have worked. They've got some venture capital money, so they're pivoting, I guess you could say. But I don't know, Donald, are you a big moviegoer? Do you like this idea?
Nah, I'm more of a Netflix stay-at-home hermit guy. But I could understand the appeal of it if it was more like a season pass, where maybe for the summer while your kid's out of school and you can just binge on movies, but that maybe it doesn't last throughout the year. I feel like I've seen so many of these things like that Rhapsody subscription model where there'll be that month where there's just no movies that you want to see, and then you have that card and you're just feeling burned. You're like, well, why am I paying $40 a month for this card when there's nothing in the theater I really want to go out and see right now?
That's
and then
true.
You cancel it. But if it was a limited time thing and you just wanted to buy an all-you-can-eat thing for the summer, I think that makes sense. But I feel like where this is going to fall flat is when you get those dry seasons when there's just nothing but Anne of Green Gables remakes or something going to the theater.
The post-Oscars lull.
Right.
So in other words, that's when you'll be spending a lot of money when there's the Anne of Green Gables remake. But then,
Right,
then they'll leave the theater and there won't be anything to watch.
Well, you're spending the same amount of money regardless.
Yeah. Well,
it's just, what are you getting out of it?
I would be for this if it was really unlimited. That's the problem, right? It's like, well, it's unlimited films except for 3D. And except for IMAX. Oh, and this special release, this movie company decided that they wanted to exempt the. If I have to do any kind of thinking around it, it suddenly loses its worthwhile. Because now I have to go, okay, it's $20 a month, but I actually want to see that one in 3D, so I can't count that one because I'm going to have to pay for that one separate. It's just worth it to pay extra to have the flexibility to see what I want when I want, rather than this. I know what theater owners are hoping is if I pay $20 a month, I'm going to go to the theater more often to get my money's worth.
And I'm going to buy more popcorn.
I'll buy popcorn, I'll buy candy, which is where they make all the money anyway.
Part of the deal, exactly. Yeah. That's what I would do.
Give me $40 a month for unlimited popcorn.
Oh.
Now you're talking.
Oh, I'd be a happy person. Large, but happy.
Yes. That would not help the nation's fight on obesity. So
that's right.
Yeah, I'm glad they're trying this. I'll be interested to see if it works.
I'm going to try this. When it is available to me, I'm going to try it.
Yeah, report back.
I will, because like I said, I like movies, and I want to feel like I'm getting my money's worth, and this might be a good option for me.
Another way to get your money's worth is to patronize our sponsors. This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Squarespace. The new Squarespace, now faster and easier than ever to create a high-quality website or blog. Maybe you're going to go to all these movies and start a movie review site, and it's going to get really popular, and you're like, crap, but now I need the site to look good, and I need it to hold up under all this traffic that's being sent my way. That's what Squarespace is about. It's reliable, it's good-looking, it's easy to use, and they give you 24/7 support. So if you've been looking for a way to actually create a website that will accommodate everything you need without you having to spend a lot of sweat on it, like we did back in the 90s when we built our code from scratch in the text editor, those days are gone. HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, it's all under the hood. JSON, it's all there. You don't have to know about it if you don't want to, though. You can create a good-looking website. So go give Squarespace a try. You don't have to take our word for it. Find out how they elegantly resize your site based on what device is actually showing the page. Do it yourself. You don't have to give them a credit card. You just go, you create a website, start the name, try it for free. If you do like it, though, remember this. Use the offer code TNT10, and you'll get 10% off new purchases. So if you sign up for a monthly account, you'll get 10% off your first month. Or if you sign up for a year at once, you get 10% off the entire year and a free domain name to boot. But anyway, just go try it out. Squarespace.com. Use that offer code TNT10 if you do decide to purchase. And we thank Squarespace, as always, for their support of Tech News Today. Time Warner Cable and AT&T have got a bone to pick with the city of Kansas City. It is a backbone. It's the backbone that they rolled out that they didn't get any incentives for, but Google did when Google rolled out their fiber. Kansas City gave Google, according to the Wall Street Journal, free rights of way. They didn't have to pay to dig up streets. Free office space for the Google Fiber team, a dedicated government team to work with them, expedited permits, lots of fee waivers, and they reduced the cost to string cable on the city's poles to $10 per pole. It's normally $18.95. That's almost half off. Now, Time Warner Cable and AT&T, who also provide internet and television services to Kansas City, say, we would like parity. You're going to give them all these breaks. We would like to have these breaks, too. In fact, Time Warner Cable currently in talks with Kansas City, Missouri. There's Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. Time Warner in talks with Kansas City, Missouri to provide more community services and service improvements in exchange for a fee refund and some of those discounts like Google got. Google has been providing free service to residents as long as they pay for the setup. They also provided some other community things that they've been giving to the city. So the question is, Time Warner Cable and AT&T, is it unfair for the city to give Google these benefits? Does it create an unfair playing field? Or is it just a matter of like, hey, Google gave our community something, so we gave them something back. If you give us something, we'll do the same.
Yeah, I think it depends on what are the service improvements that Time Warner and AT&T think that they can provide the community if they also get some of these kickbacks, as they're defining them. I do think that if a variety of companies can offer the same type of service, I mean, maybe not exactly, but definitely in the same ballpark, then yeah, probably Kansas City can't just say, well, we like Google best, so Google gets all the perks.
Also, they're Google and we love them.
But if this is sort of like, say, Time Warner saying, well, service will be improved a little bit, but it would still not even be in the same realm as the kind of speeds that Google is offering, well, then it isn't the same. I don't think that. I think you kind of have to, somebody has to decide, well, it has to, if it's within 10 megabits, then we're talking. And if it isn't, then no, you don't get what Google gets.
When Google went into Kansas City, they said one of their reasons for doing so was to show what could happen if someone did this. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is one of the things they were expecting to happen is competition.
Which is great.
And these big companies finally going to the government and saying, hey, we want a deal. We want to improve our service if you give us some improvements.
Turns out we can make things a lot faster. We just want what Google got.
Donald, what do you think?
I think the story would be a lot easier to slice through it if it wasn't two giant monolithic corporations. Like, we're used to AT&T being the bad guy, but Google has got billions of dollars too, so you can't really feel bad for them. But I don't know who to feel bad for. I just want the fast internets, and I'd be happy if my city was giving discounts to Google to make that happen. But I do like the idea that it might be spurring AT&T into a more competitive strategy and providing high-speed internet. I just don't know if there's enough there to wake that sleeping giant from actually doing that.
They seem to be stirring, though. In fact, TV's Egon in the chat room says, Google versus Time Warner Cable, who's the winner? Sounds like the consumer for once. And I've been saying this for years. I'm not the only one. Lots of people have been saying this for years, is that the problem with internet is not that we need regulations for net neutrality, is that we don't have competition. You can't just go to the guy that gives you the faster service with unlimited and respects net neutrality, because you don't have anybody to go to. There's this sort of friendly competition sometimes between the telcos and the cable companies, but it's not very fierce. Google has come in and stirred the pot. Now we're starting to see what happens. I think this is pretty interesting. Let's talk about apps, though. We've got a couple of app stories to finish up with, and Apple doing something that is good for developers.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Maybe.
It seems like that's the case. Yesterday, a few bloggers started to say, well, wait a second. There's something interesting in Apple's iOS developer guidelines. There's a clause that's been added. Actually, apparently was added in mid-September, but kind of got talked about quite a bit yesterday, passed around the web, that says apps that display apps other than your own for purchase or promotion in a manner similar to or confusing with the App Store will be rejected. So you could think of, there are a variety of apps that will suggest other apps to me. If I am interested in, I don't know, a lot of design apps, I might go to something like Free App a Day or the Daily App Dream. There are quite a few of these sorts of apps that will point me in the direction of other apps. And a lot of developers are saying, okay, well, Apple, for whatever reason, doesn't want us to promote other apps. What is the problem? I mean, if it's a free app, sure, it's free. But all that really does is keep people in the App Store downloading apps that are available in the App Store. What is Apple really gaining from this? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. And a lot of developers use marketing tools like these third-party app categorizers to get their app featured. If you're at the top of Free App a Day, for example, your app's going to be downloaded a bunch of times, and maybe you've got a pro version.
Get a lot of exposure there.
And you get a lot of exposure. You probably make up what you had to pay the marketing service in spades. And then all of a sudden, you've got a lot more people using your app and buying into future models. Looks like there's a bit of a clarification. There's another change in iOS 6 pointed out by another developer that says Apple wants developers to help it sell mobile software. There's a new object available to developers that allows apps to display other items in the App Store, including other apps, for purchase directly.
Well, now, wait a minute. You were just saying that they weren't allowing them to do this, but now they're giving them an object to do it with?
Yeah, so I think it's more of Apple saying, once again, we just want to control the experience. It's not as if we have a problem.
So if Free
with
App of the Day uses this object, they'd be okay.
Right.
Got it.
Because then you probably have like an easy, buy from App Store, whatever it looks like, that looks a lot like the App Store, and nobody's sort of confused, like, am I in some sort of another App Store? Well, maybe I like this other App Store better. It's all the App Store as Apple defines it in look and feel and functionality. I think that it sounds just like something that Apple would do.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that if App 1 knows that I might like App 2, it won't be prohibited from suggesting that to me.
I like the idea of Apple. I don't want to use the word open because it's definitely not open, but giving an avenue for developers to include something else in their apps. What do you think of this, Donald?
I mean, I think ultimately if Apple is selling the apps and they're making the money off the back end there, it shouldn't be a big deal for them. But we have seen in Android, especially from the Android tablet side of things, app stores that do a better job of displaying tablet-specific Android apps than Google's own Play App Store does. And I've recommended those over and over again. Google is doing a better job at that. But I don't think Apple wants the embarrassment of suffering that same indignity that Google did, and potentially they could if there was someone who did a specialized app store just for, let's say, iPhone 5 users, and did a better job at selling apps than Apple was doing, capitalizing on that same user. It would be embarrassing.
Yeah, there was. It was called Chomp, and Apple bought them and now has shut them down because they've rolled them into the App Store.
Yeah, that you can't actually go to Chomp anymore.
Right, because App Store is Chomp.
Exactly.
In the new version.
Well, it's
essentially.
It's the pieces of Chomp that Apple really liked,
Yeah, exactly.
and none of the others.
Exactly. So you can't get everything. But I guess Apple says, okay, well, now that we ate Chomp, and we have taken bits of it and exposed them, you can now create your own Chomp using this object. So that's good. However, consumers may not be using apps for very much longer, if you believe Pew Research story. Pew Research Center Project for Excellence in Journalism does great work. They do good research, and they found that app users consume more news from more sources in greater depth, and they're substantially more willing to pay for it in the form of digital subscriptions. So you'd think that, oh, that's great news for newspapers and news outlets. They can start making money off of the app users. However, 60% of tablet users and 61% of smartphone users now use the browser to consume their news rather than apps. That's up from 40% a year ago. So even though the app users do consume more news and are more willing to pay for it, there's fewer of them around than ever. App users, I shouldn't say fewer than ever, they're actually flat. App users went from 21% to 23%. And those who you do both is where the decline came from. Last year it was 31%. That has gone down to 16%. 3/4 of the people who use apps to consume news are iPad users, though. So there's a little bit of a difference. As the Android wave rises, you're seeing fewer app users in the concentration because Android users tend to just go to the browser. And today...
Well, are there also fewer apps depending on
Well,
the news organization too.
There may be fewer apps overall, but there's plenty of news apps in Android. So I don't. It's a question of whether it's they don't like the apps on Android as well for news, or whether they're just a different kind of user that uses Android. It's a good question. Today, the New York Times announced a new HTML5 web app for iPad. They say subscribers have told us they're interested in trying new ways of reading the Times across a variety of platforms. So it seems to reflect this Pew story. New York Times communications manager Linda Zebian told The Verge it's not an attempt to avoid Apple's purchase fee. Apple takes 30% of purchases from in-app. They have no plans to eradicate native iOS apps. They're just trying to give subscribers another way to access Times content. And they said, yes, we definitely intend to extend this to other platforms in the future, obviously meaning Android. They're just trying it out on iOS to see how it works. Remember, Financial Times famously created an HTML5 app and yanked their actual app from the App Store because they didn't want to share the 30%.
I have to assume that the New York Times downloads, I mean, they can't be that robust, or they probably wouldn't have bothered with this, especially since they're talking about a lot of people who are, they're consuming New York Times content on iOS devices, iPads. I know that the New York Times iPad app for me is overwhelming, so I find myself not opening it a lot. It's not just the New York Times, it's the New Yorker and all sorts of other things that I subscribe to.
You know who makes the best news app?
Who?
I just discovered this after we did our iPad Today.
You were
this weekend.
my co-host last Thursday.
Irish Times.
Irish Times.
The Irish Times app, and it's not a newsstand app. It's just an app. Works like a newspaper. You flip through it. You scroll. You can still click into a story and get it full screen, but when you click back out, you're browsing again. You're seeing all the headlines. You're seeing first paragraphs. You get that same scannability that you get in an actual newspaper.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I think a lot, you hear a lot of people saying we need to reinvent the news. We don't want to just replicate a newspaper in a digital form. That's not the point. But you're saying, some of these apps change things around a little bit too much, and I don't really like that. And I just kind of want to. We're at least more comfortable with the web experience because we've all been doing that a lot longer. So I think that probably is part of the fallback, is just saying, I don't know, I just want to go to New York Times, look at the homepage. I don't need to go to an app, and I certainly don't want them, when I go to that homepage in my mobile Safari, for them to say, we have an app, would you like to download it now? Because that's annoying. And a lot of news organizations do that.
I want to be able to use the browser for all this stuff. I don't want to have to download apps, but it's never been satisfactory. And even so, even with these HTML5 apps like the Financial Times, you do tend to get these prompts over and over of like, hey, do you want to reauthorize the amount of room for this? They need to make the ability to create a web app standardized. I know Ubuntu is doing this. They're trying to make web apps like just stand right next to regular apps in the Unity interface in Dash. And I would like to see that happen in iOS. I'd like to see that happen in Android, where a web app still launches a browser to be used in, but can look and act and have a link on the homepage that doesn't behave in any way different than a regular app. It just means that you don't have to go to a store. Well, they could even have a store. It just means that it would work across platforms. Somebody pointed out this isn't really HTML5. If it's only working in iOS, you should be able to get it across any browser anywhere, right, Donald?
Yeah, and for me, I'm not a big fan of the kind of siloed in-app experience. I feel like it kind of hits on, to borrow a tired phrase, the idea of like a lean back versus lean forward experience. If you're just going to one app version of the news, maybe CNET News, you're getting all the CNET content, or you're getting all the content from the one provider, but you're limiting yourself in some respects to the broader news gathering of the web. I feel like we can sometimes forget how the web is the most amazing hyperlinked way to get news from so many different sources, and to be able to connect to them all as easily as possible. That you can imagine the appification of all these sources actually puts up barriers in some ways to people who want to just get out and find all of the news from as many different sources as they possibly can.
And I feel like I might be more willing to subscribe in certain situations, at least the way the New York Times does it, where they're like, you can read a lot for free, but if you want to read a lot more, you just be a subscriber. If I knew, like, I can get that access to the New York Times anywhere. And that's what they're going for here. They're saying we want to create that situation. So if you're a digital subscriber, it doesn't matter what device you're using, where you're at, what account you're logged into, as long as you can authorize yourself, you can read your subscription. So I think that is what I think we're moving towards that. I think we're just seeing early signs of that. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the random.
Randomizer.
Do we need the X Factor to do a tech show?
What is the X Factor, and tell me more.
The X Factor is Simon Cowell's show for finding singing stars.
Oh, it's an
American
once he moved
Idol-ish
on from American
thing.
Idol, but same idea, right?
Yeah, he's actually started it in the UK while he was still doing American Idol here in the US.
Very few people could get away with that, right? I am leaving my successful franchise to start another franchise like the first.
Yeah. So he and will.i.am, Simon Cowell and will.i.am, told the Sun newspaper they have met to discuss the details of a project that would be X Factor for tech entrepreneurs.
Oh, no. Don't we have startup disrupty conferences every other week that do just this? Do we need it to be televised on CBS?
I guess. I mean, I can see both sides of this. I can see a sort of like, hey, but popularizing this is triumph of the geeks. You could say that folks with good ideas should get more attention. And there are already shows that are similar to this, like Swim with the Sharks, right? Where you have to pitch ideas. This is just a tech-focused version of that. Donald, great idea or greatest idea?
I think maybe neither. I feel like the whole X Factor Simon Cowell MO is to stock half of the show with the worst, most laughable things just for people to make fun of, and not really provide you with really innovative ideas or innovative artists. So I kind of groan when I hear that there's an expansion of this X Factor idea to another tech realm.
I think that's a really good point. You're going to see a lot of people with terrible ideas, and you're designed to go, oh, that's the worst.
That's like
Can
the
you
bad
imagine?
Singers, right?
Right. But that's the thing, is like a bad singer is bad, but a good singer is instant gratification. Like, oh my gosh, that person, what a songbird. I hope she wins. With a really great business idea or technological invention, sometimes you need to have it in use for 6 months or something before life really changes. So it's not the same thing.
And even if it's immediately recognizable as a good idea, it's not quite the same as hearing a brilliant singer.
No.
I don't think.
No.
You don't go, oh, what a beautiful...
Does the hair stand up on the back of your neck?
Beautiful pitch.
When you...
I guess some VCs probably would argue with me about that.
With the right 3D printer, I think there might be a lot of oohs and ahs right away, but... Maybe not. Maybe not.
Shark
all
Tank,
of
not Swim with the Sharks. That was what I was trying to say earlier. Thank you, chat room.
Shark Tank.
The Shark Tank.
I thought that was some Shark Week thing. I had no idea it was a startup show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the Sharks.
I don't watch enough TV.
Let's see what the Sharks are saying about this idea. Yeah, there'll just be a tech edition of that. This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Gazelle. Just got my email that they got my box, so they're going to pay me. You can get paid too. You want to get a new iPhone? You want to get a new Android phone? Get some cash for your old one by locking it in a Gazelle. And don't say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to go without a phone, because you don't have to. You go to Gazelle, you put in the name of your gadget, you lock in the quote for 30 days. You have 30 days to get it to them. That's why it took me so long. You've been hearing me talking about this forever, because it took me 30 days to get my new phone, box up the old one, and send it to them. But now that they've got it, they're going to pay me fast. They'll pay you cash, pay you PayPal, pay you Amazon gift certificate. Go to Gazelle.com now. Get an offer for your iPhone or your old MacBook or your tablet, your iPod, and turn it into cash. Especially if it's just sitting around not doing anything and you've been putting off like, oh, I got to get around to selling that thing. This is simple. You do a few clicks on the web, you print out a shipping label, and you're on your way to getting some dollars in your pocket. Payment is fast within a few days of the item being received, and it's risk-free. So lock in that quote right now. Get that quote, get that free shipping. Sell your used iPhone today at Gazelle.com. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Shall we take a look at what's on the calendar,
I
Sarah?
think we shall. HP Security's analyst meeting is tomorrow, October 3rd, and you can actually watch. It's a live webcast hosted by Meg Whitman and others. Starts at 8 a.m. Pacific time.
And then Simon Cowell and Will.i.am will be judging her pitch.
Really good pitch. Also tomorrow, PlayStation mobile titles go on sale. These are aimed at Android smartphones and tablets. The games are going to be available in 9 different countries at launch: UK, the US, Japan, Canada, and France, among a few others. Sharp and Fujitsu have already joined on as hardware partners. Apple will reveal its fourth quarter 2012 earnings results on October 25th. There are some rumors flying around that might precede an announcement that we still have yet to hear about in October.
You know what else
But that's
happens?
just a rumor.
The 25th is one day before something else happens.
Cricket.
The 26th.
Oh, Microsoft. Yes, I see what you did there. Microsoft is opening its 30-plus holiday pop-up brick and mortar stores on October 26th. And that's the day that Windows 8 and Surface RT tablets go on sale. Well, no, I was like, besides Microsoft?
I think
I immediately went to Halloween, like, is Halloween on the 27th? No. What else?
This has got to be a trick question.
I'm really happy I got your surprised look, Sarah.
No, I think
we got that
I think
forever.
it's that Apple is putting its earnings results on October 25th so they can talk about how much money they made the day before Windows 8 goes on sale.
Yeah.
It's a little taunting going on.
Everybody's so petty.
I know.
You know?
Let's here's somebody that's not petty. You, the audience.
Incoming message.
Doug, a chemistry teacher, called in to 260 TNT show to give us some thoughts on Apple Maps.
Hey, this is Doug, the chemistry teacher out in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was just listening to episode 596 where you were talking about Tim Cook's apology, and you seemed so surprised that he pointed out rival products for the maps, but Apple doesn't really care whose map you use. They just want you buying the iPhones, and if you're happier about using the iPhone and you're using someone else's app, that's no problem for them. In fact, if they could get you to buy a rival maps company, they get 30% of that money plus the money you spent on the iPhone. So it doesn't seem to be that odd to me that he really just wants people to feel good about the product and stop complaining about the maps and use the phones, because then we're still using iOS 6 and we're still using his phones and he still gets the money. All right, love the show. Thanks for it. And keep up the good work.
Doug makes a good point here. I mean, the conventional wisdom is Apple makes their money off the products, off the hardware. So what do they care what map you use? But then why would they cancel the deal with the Google Maps in the first place? Donald, do you have a thought on that?
Because they hate Google.
Oh, it's personal. Okay. that
I don't
may
really
be
know.
all it is. I don't know. They may be pushed down that road. Anyway, that's a good point, Doug. They shouldn't really care in the end. In fact, they probably shouldn't have a default Maps app, should they?
Ooh, who, Apple?
Yeah. Shouldn't they just say, like, get whatever one you want?
Well, that's kind of what they're forced to say right now. Hey,
Yeah,
if you don't like our Maps app, perhaps you'd like MapQuest.
I've used the Apple Maps app, by the way, and it has not steered me wrong yet.
Me either.
We'll see.
Me either. I actually did this whole on i5 yesterday. Some of your transit options, which I actually think works really well. Even though it kicks you over to another app, it kind of puts you more in control based on the transit app that you want to use. But anyway, Let's move on to an email from Jared, who says, hearing the last TNT, the randomizer was smart cars with built-in projectors. I see a few moments that this would actually work. From the screenshot, it looks like it only works on a plain white wall, which means that you'd be tearing your hair, frantically driving around to find a brick wall that's white in the country, just to watch your favorite flick. It may be cheaper to stay indoors.
Or it could lead to a lot of white wall vandalism. People, it'd be the opposite.
You got a paint bucket in your back seat.
It could be
and
a graffiti solution where it's like, oh, this wall is filled with graffiti. Get the people with the projectors built into their cars to drive by and paint it white so they can watch their movies.
That could, I don't know. I mean, sure. I prefer that to graffiti. Well, it depends on the graffiti.
I don't know.
Actually.
Some graffiti's pretty good.
Maybe watching a movie with the graffiti is going to be this whole new form of art.
Right.
Like, did you see the Avengers on top of the graffiti at 7th and Market?
To accentuate the movie.
It was really hardcore.
I actually love that idea. That's pretty good.
I'm glad you do, because I don't think anybody else will.
Lord of the Rings graffiti. All right. That's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks for watching or listening and submitting stories. If you did so, technewstoday.reddit.com. If you haven't gone and checked it out, it's a great source of its own of the stuff people in our audience want us to talk about. So go check it out, technewstoday.reddit.com. We look at it every day. Donald Bell, thank you, my friend.
Thank you for
having
having
me.
Yes, and I didn't mean to disparage CNET's app. It's an amazing app. You should get it.
Of course it is. No, I know you didn't. What is this top5.cnet.com?
Oh, well, they've got me now as the poor man's Tom Merritt, doing the top 5 now for CNET, but it's a lot of fun. So you can check that out every week.
This is the same show, so you took it over from Cooley?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm glad that it still exists. Because my version on Revision 3 just tanked. So you guys win. That's awesome. Go check it out, top5.cnet.com. It's worth it. Top 5 iPhone alternatives. Look at that. Good stuff.
How topical.
I know. How topical. Donald Bell, what's your Twitter address again? @Donald?
Donald.
All right. Check him out. Thank you, folks, for watching or listening. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, tnt@twit.tv, or give us a call, leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. And we will be back tomorrow with an all-new slate of tech stories involving patents and probably complaining about Apple Maps. But some other stuff that's totally new. We'll see you then.